Struck in the chest with a compressed tetrion beam by a species called the Lunarians, Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise D was placed on the biobed of his longtime friend Dr. Beverly Crusher mere moments away from death. Yet rather than succumbing to his wound, Picard found himself brought before the rebel Q, an immortal being from the Q continuum, able to manipulate matter, time, and space. Though most Q preferred not to interfere in the affairs of mortals unless it was to maintain the status quo, the rebel Q took a more active role, eventually coming into contact with humanity and selecting Jean-Luc Picard as his test subject to judge the species. Though Picard was angered and annoyed by Q's repeated interference, over time their interactions proved to be enormously meaningful and consequential, not only for the captain, but the Federation as a whole. Their meetings were so fascinating to Q, he went on to appear before and even befriend other Starfleet captains, to the point where humans played a significant role in ending a civil war within the Q continuum. But it was not the fate of the Federation or the Continuum which concerned him when he met with Picard as he lay dying. Rather, Q, for reasons which remained his own, decided to help the captain gain a little perspective on his own life. At first, like always, Q mocked him by pretending to be God, and even brought in Picard's father to admonish his son and express disappointment. But eventually, Q explained what was occurring on the Enterprise, that the captain received a chest wound which was causing his artificial heart to fail. Upon hearing this, Picard explained that in his youth, he was stabbed through the chest in a bar fight with Nausicaans, an event he deeply regretted. Describing his younger self as arrogant, undisciplined, egotistical, and foolish, he even compared himself to Q. Picard then confessed a desire to change much about his past, and in an instant, he was transported back to Starbase Earhart as a 21-year-old ensign freshly graduated from Starfleet Academy. Since Q's powers were so extraordinary, he arranged for Picard to have a second chance at life, bringing him back to the events before the bar fight, with 2 days to change his past and avoid being stabbed through the chest so he would not die on that biobed in the future. Though Picard was hesitant because of possible repercussions to the timeline, Q assured him absolutely nothing would change for anyone else, and so the captain seized the opportunity, reconnecting with his old friends, Corey Zweller and Marta Baranides, determined to prevent the fight from occurring. In the original timeline, a loud Nausicaan cheated Corey in a game of don-jot, and so the Starfleet officers plotted revenge, rigging the game in their own favor the next night, resulting in the fight and stabbing. But this time, the captain intervened, trying to calm his friend down, and when that failed, threatened to alert the gaming authorities. In addition to avoiding conflict, Picard also wanted to change things about his personal life, having spent his youth befriending girls he genuinely cared for, while dating those for whom his feelings were only superficial, thereby allowing him to play the field and have multiple girlfriends at once. But this time it was different, ending dates with 2 other women before spending an intimate night with his good friend Marta, someone he cared for deeply. However, the next day he was surprised to learn she regretted what occurred, fearing that their friendship might suffer. Though he alienated both his friends, they gathered together for one last drink at the bar before leaving the station, but once again the Nausicaans arrived, challenging Corey to don-jot. When he declined, the Nausicaan started insulting Starfleet, but when Corey stood to fight, Picard got in his way and pushed him down, desperate to stop the conflict from escalating. Laughing at the humans, the Nausicaans walked away, and Picard was left to see the look of betrayal on the faces of Corey and Marta, losing them as friends. Q then appeared and offered congratulations for his success. With his mission complete, Picard next found himself once again on board the USS Enterprise D, but not as a captain, rather as lieutenant, junior grade, working as an assistant astrophysics officer. Apparently, his life took a different direction after the events of Starbase Earhart. No longer was he a man of action, admired and respected by friends and enemies alike. Instead, he was a quiet, mild-mannered officer of little consequence or regard. Refusing to settle for such a career, Picard met with Commander Riker and Counselor Troi, hoping to be transferred to engineering or security, with the hopes of one day taking a command position. But both Riker and Troi did not see that as a realistic possibility, explaining that although Picard was thorough, dedicated, and reliable, he was also unwilling to take risks or make bold decisions, and because of that, remained stagnant for much of his career. Deeply disturbed by the life of this other Picard, the captain pleaded with Q to take him back to his own reality, stating he could not live as a man bereft of passion and imagination. Yet Q would not allow it without hearing him admit what he'd learned. After all, Picard fixed the mistakes of his past, and now had a real heart in his chest. As Q put it, he is who you wanted to be, one who is less arrogant and undisciplined in his youth, one who was less like me. That Picard never had a brush with death, never came face to face with his own mortality, so his life never came into focus, going from one assignment to the next, never seizing the opportunities that presented themselves. He learned to play it safe, and he never, ever got noticed by anyone. Q also mentioned that in this new life, he could live out his days in safety, while in the old one, he was moments away from death. But Picard now saw the truth of it, and stated, "I would rather die as the man I was, than live the life I just saw." And with that, Picard was once again on Starbase Earhart, just as the Nausicaans started to pick a fight. Knowing what had to be done, Picard got in the Nausicaa's face, and started the brawl himself, ending the night, as expected, with a blade through his chest. Looking down, Picard started to laugh before collapsing unconscious. When he awoke, he was back in the original timeline, laying on the biobed of Dr. Beverly Crusher, having survived the injury from the Lunarians. Later, as Picard spoke to his first officer about his experience, he could not help but express gratitude to Q for teaching him a valuable lesson. In his own words, "There were loose threads, untidy parts of me I would like to remove, but when I pulled on one of those threads, it unraveled the tapestry of my life." A special thanks to Seoul Guide Medical, Korea's largest medical tourism service provider and longtime supporters of this channel. Seoul Guide Medical is available to help you with anything you might need, be it plastic surgery, skincare, dental procedures, hair transplants, and more. So if you're interested or wish to learn more about what they offer, head on over to youtube.com/SeoulGuideMedical, their CEO's page, youtube.com/Tony Medina, or any of the other links to their website and social media accounts found in the description box below. With their CEO being one of the biggest Star Trek fans I've ever known, Seoul Guide Medical has been an ardent and steadfast supporter of CivilizationEx, so be sure to show them some love if you stop by their channel.
South Korea has the highest rate of plastic surgery per capita in the world.
Doctors here become experts at what they do, and when you're working on your face, you want a scarless procedure that will be done right the first time.
And because plastic surgery is so routine in Korea, there's little stigma attached to getting work done.
There's no difference between getting plastic surgery or skin treatment than putting on makeup or getting clothes or getting education. It's all self-improvement. And if it makes you happy and doesn't hurt anybody, then why not?